Hey guys, Sleepy Reader here. Over the weekend, I visited a local book shop a couple of times, and earlier in the week, went to my regular comic book shop, which is further away. Just had comic book shops on the mind a bit. Uh, the comic book shop where I have my subscriptions is this really wonderful place. It's this huge space with big high ceilings, and the bookshelves are there's lots of space between them, and they're arranged in a really good way, and they have a really deep selection of books about comic books and graphic novels and European graphic novels, and a huge space where they show their new comics, and a whole room devoted to back issues. It's really a lovely place. There's like 6 comic book stores in my area, and this is one of the furthest ones away. But I decided I really wanted to support it, and I really, once when you get your subscription there, you get 15% off. So then, off of everything else, along with 15% off your comics. So then I'm more likely to buy stuff at that comic book store also. And it just seemed like the richer experience going there. But it is a bit frustrating trying to get there on Wednesdays or Thursdays. So this week, because of a babysitting snafu, there was no way I could get to it on the Wednesday. And on Thursday, my wife and daughter were out of town together, so it was a good time for me to go. So I went straight after work and got caught in a huge traffic jam. And I was in our car where the air conditioning isn't working very well. We have 2 cars, one nice, one not so nice. So I arrived at the store all hot and sweaty, and they handed me my pile of comics, and there were only 2 comics. And I knew I had 5 that week. And so I went around to the shelves and found 2 of the others that were on my sub list, and one of them had been sold out. And this is not the first time they've goofed up on that list. So that's a little frustrating. And so because I was all excited to get Trio, I had enjoyed the issue number 3, so I was really excited to get issue number 4. Turned out to be a little bit of a dud. But so then I drove back again through the heavy traffic and went to the comic book store really near me, and picked up Trio. And I thought, well, why don't I have the subscription at the comic book store really near me? But I've gone back to that comic book store 2 times this weekend after that, because they had a Labor Day weekend sale where all back issues, even very recent back issues, like ones that came out a few weeks ago, were 50% off. And all trades were 25% off. So I bought a lot of comic books there. I just kept going back and pouring through their issues, since they're only a 5-minute or 10-minute walk away from my house. But it's the kind of comic book store I don't like as much. All the comic books, even the brand new comic books, are wrapped up in plastic, so you can't really thumb through issues and decide, what the next issue you want is. It's got low ceilings. The fluorescent lights are unpleasant, and it's just got that comic book store feeling where I'm slightly uncomfortable rubbing shoulders with people. I don't mean to be snobby at all or anything, but I don't know. It just feels more claustrophobic there. So I don't know what to do. I want to support the really good store, but this long drive, and then sometimes they screw up my subscription box. I don't know. So that's just something I've been thinking about. It's kind of funny, the nature of comic book stores, and ones you like and ones you don't like. The one that I don't like has very friendly people running it, and yet when I'm there, I get this feeling of, it seems more like the kind of comic book store that's trying to take advantage of people somehow, if that makes sense. Starting with the plastic bags wrapping everything, just sort of, although you should take good care of all your books, I like to buy them without the plastic bags on and put them on myself. And it feels like they're just trying to sell the idea that these are all these super huge collector items. But in that same store, I've often overheard them talking people way down on the prices of their collections when they're trying to sell them at the store and telling them how they're not worth very much and stuff. And there's that whole bad taste from the 90s where comic book stores really just comic book stores and comic book publishers just grabbed as much money as they could off of people's dreams that they were going to make a fortune from buying comic books. Anyhow, at that sale, though, I had a really good time buying things 50% off. I'm just going to show you a few highlights. I got 2 Omax. So any price you see on these, I would have paid half price. And this one seems in pretty good shape, so I'm pretty happy paying $3. And this OMAC, so that other one was OMAC number 7, and this is number 6. I have a feeling when I was a kid I owned this one. In some beat up condition. I found it in an old box somewhere. But anyway, it's OMAC's a lot of fun. Another thing I did, I have this thing, and I read a huge number of them way back in the 80s for Arak, Son of Thunder, which is written by Roy Thomas, and started out with art by Ernie Colin and later had other artists, about a Indian in Viking times, but all sword and sorcery. There's lots of sorcery involved. An Indian raised by Vikings in a sword and sorcery era. So I believe I bought 29 issues of Arak, and I already owned about 31 issues of Arak. So I've got a lot of Arak to read or reread. Just showing you 2 covers of them. I hope it's as good as I remember, but I paid almost nothing per issue. I guess most of them were $1.25, so I paid less, about 60 cents per issue. Yeah, that one I was showing was $2, but almost all of them were $1.25. And then they didn't have any Jack Kirby Commandees that I don't already own, or they didn't have any left by the time I got to that part of the store. But I did pick up just a few of these post-Jack Kirby Commandees because I want to see what they did with Commandee afterwards. There's still something appealing about it. I think some of the issues were drawn or inked by Alfredo Alica, who I always really like his work. And these didn't cost me much, so that was just fun to pick up. I got more of these that I'm showing you, just some sample covers. Kind of like that cover. And then I feel like I should sort of research old Avengers more before I pick them up. But just with the sale going on and ones with covers I liked, I grabbed this one, King Size Avengers number 4. I think there's a chance there's reprints inside. I don't know. I haven't even looked yet. But I love this cover, and maybe it does have a newer story in there somewhere. I guess maybe the reason it was cheap is that it looks like the spine is kind of rolled. And then I bought some other Avengers, number 85. I bought these mostly because I like the covers. I'm assuming they're by Roy Thomas. I'm assuming they're art by Sal or John Buscema, but I could be wrong. The covers are definitely by John Buscema. And I don't really know what I should be paying for these, but I figured, $7.50 for each of these was probably worth it. And I'm kind of excited I'll crack them open and take a look. I really love this era of the Avengers. When what I think of as the Roy Thomas, John Buscema era, although there were other artists involved also. This one is a feminist one. All right, girls, this finishes off these male chauvinist pigs. That just seems a lot of fun to me because the whole approach to feminism, of course, has changed so much since then. And then I have a friend who's obsessed with his childhood memory of reading E-Man. And he told me all about this issue and how he owned it, and if he only still owned it, it would be worth a ton of money. Here's a very yellowed version of it that was being sold for $7, so $3.50 for me. I'm gonna give it as a present, this and just one other issue that was pretty cheap, to my friend, so he can experience some nostalgia there. So that was a lot of fun. I bought newer issues, like of things that other people's reviews have made me want to try, like the Ravagers. I now have Ravagers 1 through 4 that David Lee was recommending. He also I think he may have been recommending Frankenstein Agent of Shade. I've been reading the first trade that goes issues 1 through 7 and really loving it. And since it's going to tie in with the Rot also, I just figured I'd start picking up all the issues. So I got a whole bunch of Frankenstein Agent of Shade. And then I also bought a lot of comic books that I was hoping would be interesting to my daughter. One was a series of Supermans back when they were, not Superman, Supergirls back when they were 60 cents, and I was hoping they would be closer to her speed, but the first few issues that I looked at were really awful, actually. So anyhow, that's sort of been part of my weekend, going to a couple different comic book stores and going back several times. I wish I could go back again. I can now think of more stuff I wish I had looked for at this place with the 50% off sale. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to switch my subscriptions over to this really close store. Then I can always get things on Wednesday. Hopefully they'll be better at holding things. But it's not as good of a store for me discovering new things, both because I don't like to linger there and because everything's wrapped in plastic. I can't look at new issues and such. So it's silly to worry about it and, what comic book store do I go to? But I actually do, supporting the great store or saving myself a lot of time and maybe having a less exciting comic book experience. Okay. Hope you all had a great weekend. If you're in the U.S., had a great long weekend. If you're elsewhere or just having a good time, talk to you all later.